Alrighty, guys, here we are back with another PDOCS Livestream Series here with yours truly and Fred Smith, who's been on quite a few of these. And as I mentioned in the post I did, was it yesterday or the day before? Whatever, with that badass image of you and me that Tor made for us. That was pretty cool. I was mentioning how Fred and I have been in some pretty high level discussions. I mean, throughout our lives, but even recently in the last couple of weeks since the last time you've been on, I think we both had a lot of great conversations and a lot of great revelations, for lack of a better phrase, and what's going on in the internet marketing space right now. So that's what Fred and I are going to dive into today. Fred, give a little intro here and say hi to everybody.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yep, definitely happy to be here. I am family. We're not even close cousins. We're like brothers at this point in time. So, yeah, definitely. And the whole reason why we're realigning and talking is to give you perspective as to how much the internet landscape has changed. Once upon a time, it was the wild, wild west where people could just say whatever they wanted to get away with whatever they wanted to. But now those times have changed, and a lot of the marketers have had to become more sophisticated. Your message has had to become a lot more sophisticated, and now it has to have more relevancy now than ever, especially since behaviors and interests and those kinds of targets have gone away on Facebook. Because if you look at PDOCS even just 3 years ago, in relation to where the market was, one of the unique selling propositions of PDOCS was to be able to take a VA and train them on world class, top level A copywriting as well as running ads within 7 days. A lot of that hasn't shifted, but the way that you get there has. So that's one of the reasons why me and Ray, in particular, before we started recording, we're talking about Thought Leader Academy as well as how everything integrates and ties in together. So I'll just park it right there for right now, Ray. Get your thoughts.
No, that's a good start. You gave it a good foundation to dive into stuff. And obviously, as Fred said, definitely family. I totally agree. And realigning, we never totally parted ways, but we're rocking together harder and more now than ever. For a couple of reasons. And I love what Fred brings to the table in terms of communication, the overall vision and purpose, and the higher things, which has helped me level up in the way I look at things a lot. But I think he said something really important there. The Wild West of marketing a few years ago, where you kind of get away with half-assing it, for lack of a better phrase. Like, you could just be, you didn't have to really focus on standing out. If your message was good, it didn't matter if five other people had a good message too. You could get business. But now, I think two things. Number one, you have to be much more intentional with your message and how you do it. Fred and I actually did a little role play yesterday, and I got some clips from that, and I'll talk about that a little more. But there's a lot, and Fred pointed out a lot of the little nuances and subtleties and intricacies of how you talk, how you message. And this goes whether I'm having a conversation on Zoom, in person, in Messenger, it doesn't matter. That transpires. People think they need to talk differently on different avenues. I mean, would you talk different to your friend on the phone than you would if you were sitting on the couch talking to him? Probably not. You'd probably be talking the same. So why with a prospect you talk different in email than you do in this? I could see different objectives totally, but the way you talk should come organic and natural. It shouldn't feel like every other email you get and every other conversation. And Fred, and this was great in the role play too, and I see this a lot. Taking sales calls and you're speaking with a prospect and you're like, hey man, what inspired you to want to hop on the call today? And they're usually going to tell you, well, I'm booking with all kinds of companies. And you're going to start to see that if you do things right, you're going to realize that you stand out because everybody else is doing things in a way where people are feeling the lack of genuineness, of authenticity, of coming from a place of actually caring about getting you a result and solving your problem. And they're more worried about closing a sale and that the sales rep having commission breath, right? Just worrying about closing a deal and not worrying about helping somebody and treating them right. So that's the basis and the foundation into a lot of what we're going to talk about. And before we go into it a little further, one quick announcement that you guys probably saw, but obviously Vision to Victory, powered with and by PDOCS, is launching our first live challenge in damn about 18 months. And this is going to be really exciting. We're taking some new philosophies, frameworks, and techniques and tactics to messaging that you've never seen. And this is going to be applicable whether you're doing cold email, whether you're running ads and ad copy, ad messaging, whether you are doing stuff in the DMs organically, whether you're creating content organically, all of those things, landing pages, sales pages, that's all your messaging, guys. Even into the sales process, it's still your messaging. And we're going to give everybody the skills and the frameworks, the templates, more importantly, the understanding and the wherewithal to revolutionize your messaging in 5 days or less in whatever capacity that is for you. So That's going to be pretty exciting. Fred, you stoked for that coming up here in a week and a half or so?
Yeah, 100%, man, because this stuff is not guesswork. It's a lot of what's been under the surface of specifically online marketing. And now that since 2020, people are a lot more aware of online marketing, this is no different than if you're even like, let's just say you're a day trader or you're trading stocks, right? When people know the system and the strategy and a whole bunch of people know it, then guess what? It no longer works anymore. It's not as effective. It's just math. There's so many people who take that approach versus understanding that it's a communication system that we're working to really focus on these days and making sure that you say, you mean what you say, but more importantly, you can communicate in a way to where it connects. And I think people are missing that right now because you have a lot of the online gurus who literally were gurus. And what that means is they were the ones who were blazing the path and pioneering the path. A lot of them have gone out of business. Some of them have pivoted into different directions in their lives and their careers. So now where are you going to get the information from? This is what the problem is, hence the reasons why training and development of what your unique selling proposition is and how you specifically come to the marketplace is going to be important now more than ever, especially since behaviors and interests are taken away off of Facebook. Sure, you can use data and everything else, but it's still polishing a turd if you don't have your messaging correct. So you're going to have to get that part straightened out regardless. So,
Yep, yep. As I said, as we talked about yesterday, and as we always say, it pretty much always comes down to these three things, if not all three, at least one of them. But they all stem back to the foundation being your messaging, which leads into conversions if you're doing things right, which conversions lead you into booked calls and closed deals and revenue in the business. So between that little triangle or trifecta of messaging, conversions, and closed deals, everything we're going to talk about, especially in that challenge, but we're going to cover some of it here today, is kind of all intertwined and they layer on top of one another to make sure that they all end up firing, for lack of a better phrase. Because if one of those is broken, the end one is broken, and that's the closed deals. That's where it's always going to show up, right? In that role play we were talking about, you're like, and you were playing the prospect yesterday, you're like, I don't know if it's my marketing, my sales. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, it's all going to show up in sales, right? But sales and marketing generally work hand in hand and in tandem. And we see this in a lot of offers. And anybody watching might chuckle a little here because you probably had this in your business if you have a few employees or team members. But when we're not closing deals, sales is usually blaming marketing for crappy leads. Marketing is blaming sales for driving leads, but he's converting. And that's generally because they don't have their messaging dialed in. And there's not an open feedback loop to go back between marketing and sales to iron that out. Anything we do in our business is going to be a little bit of trial and error. And without that open feedback loop, as we talk about in PDOCS, with your team, same thing like having an open feedback loop with your marketplace. We need to know how they're responding to your messaging. You might think you know what the pains, desires of your market are by research, but you don't really know until you talk to them, and they either validate that or they dispel that, and you make a tweak, right?
yep.
So, Fred, what would you say, especially with some of the things we've been working on and some of the high level conversations and rooms we've been in, if you had to say the number one thing that is really paramount in the internet marketing space right now to focus on, more specifically, I guess things have changed, like you talked about, what is really prevalent and what is going on now that's different than maybe in 2020?
Well, people are going to literally have to stop and think about exactly what they want because what's happened is the markets are so segmented, delineated, and differentiated now to the point where you have to pick and choose. I was just on a call earlier this morning, and I still have people being broad with their language talking about they want to help everybody. Well, good luck on that because that's not going to work. If you look at, as an example, an ecom person, in order for them to get from that idea to actually getting a purchase, they have to think through the creative. They have to know who it's for, who it's not for. Like, as an example, again, with us, we had a special fly that only is in this area. It's the craziest thing. And Amazon had sold like 10 million units worth of this thing for like $70. Now, my wife doesn't spend a lot of money. So for her to want to spend $70 on something, and we haven't had that fly problem since in the last 3 to 4 years, but understand how specific that one conversation had to be for
Fair,
in order for
yeah.
them to get the $10 million worth of sales. That's my point. So we have to be that specific in our messaging these days, but we also have to know what the end user wants and what they don't want. And we also have to know their obstacles, their challenges, and their beliefs. So without, it still boils down to not having that proper vision in place to be able to position your company and your offer around what really needs to happen so that you can grow. And we've also seen that phenomenon occur where you have people who were wildly successful in their businesses and they're hating it because it's not what they expected it to be. So me and you have seen it on the agency side, talking to agency owners and lead gen companies. This problem is prevalent. It still boils down to vision. It still boils down to messaging. It doesn't matter what part of it, whether you're a salesperson getting quote unquote crappy leads. Well, if you have a system and process in place and it's pretty A to B, then that might not be the problem. It might be you. So, but other than that, if you don't have something like that in place, then yeah, it leaves that conversation open to just saying it's crappy leads when it might not be that. So that's the other reasons why that role play was so powerful yesterday was because I threw the kitchen sink at you, but I did it in the exact way that somebody who really has that pain would do it. And that's key because I understand that market. And because I understand that market, I can speak to it, I can write to it, I can market to it, and I can close the deal to it. So,
Excellent. And what Fred's alluding to there with the role play, and I touched on it just really quickly. If you're watching this on the Facebook group or on YouTube, feel free to subscribe. Just let us know, or on YouTube, I'll put it down below once it's edited. But Fred and I did a role play yesterday of a great example of a triage call for somebody coming into your business to see if they're a good fit for your product, figure out where they're at, figure out what their problem is, and make some solid recommendations and suggestions, and then tie them down with micro commitments to the next step. It was very, very well done, in my opinion. I suppose I'm biased because it's my opinion and I was the one doing it. But what we did beyond that, and what I normally don't do in a role play, is Fred and I did a full debrief or breakdown of how he saw things from the prospect shoes, what I was doing in my head and the framework I was using that nobody could see because it's in my head for one, but I wouldn't have it on the screen even if it wasn't, right? But that's what most people don't see. It's like it's great to see a very solid, smooth framework and a good call. It's even more powerful if you know everything, why they did it, why they thought that. I guarantee you, if you guys, comment below, especially on Facebook, YouTube, I'll try to put it there in the description. But if you guys want that role play, I'll probably have that done edited by the end of the day. And happy to send that over. But I think that'll be really powerful for some of you guys to watch. Now,
yeah, I'd like to add to that real quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
because the thing about it is that when you know your audience inside and out, it's not manipulation, it's really communication. Now, if you use it the way that me and Ray are talking about it with total intention, that's what makes it a real communication system because they'll actually appreciate the fact that you're being a leader for real. Like you're not just sitting here trying to give them a product and your AOV goes up and everything else that we talk about as far as alien language goes. But when you start speaking about human 101, this is really how we develop know, like, and trust to its fullest extent because you have to also understand that some of these people will get to a point where they want to know exactly how you got them to that point. Like we've seen this before. Like you'll say, like just as an example, yesterday on my timeline, Ray, hey, you want to know how I booked 15 calls in 24 hours and blah blah blah. It's like, shut up. That went away with the afros back in the 70s, bro. Like nobody's speaking that way anymore. That
That's
ain't
good.
that ship done sailed. So really you have to have a real moral compass and ethics in place at this point in time. You always should have had them in the first place. But that kind of stuff can get you busted by the FTC to the point of tens of millions of dollars if you aren't careful. Because even when that started creeping in, as an example, and I'll shut up, when I first started spotting it, Ray was like, "What are you talking about?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, like I'm in some other rooms. I'm letting you know, like this is coming down the pipeline. I don't know if you remember those conversations we had, Ray, and you were
I know
asking me,
exactly one of them.
and I was just like, dude, I'm like, it's here. I was telling people this for years, and some people either went bankrupt or they went out of business before. Now you got the alphabet crew coming in, FTC, FCC, IRS, and all the other parts of it. So you really have to be mindful of how you're speaking these days because, again, like for me, it's not a big deal because I always had a license. At one point in time, my mouth was insured for more than $1 million. So I already know the game. I don't have to figure that part out. The key is, are you able to figure it out and still generate revenue? That's going to be the new game.
Yeah, no, totally. And before I went into the little segment about our role playing, you were talking, when I asked you, like, what's the biggest thing that's changed? I think you said something really powerful. I just want to reemphasize. Stop and think about what you really want and how you're going to get that, right? So I think a lot of us, and I'm even guilty of this at times, don't stop and think. I just do. Now, with somebody that's a little more experienced and established, you can do that and fly by the seat of your pants, but eventually it's led me into corners. Like I get success really quickly, or I get things going. I'm like, oh, I didn't really stop and fully think about this, and now I'm running into this bottleneck that I didn't see because I didn't stop and think about it. That's probably even 10 times more derailing or destructive if you don't have all those foundations and experience and you're just starting from scratch. Once you get derailed, you don't know how to optimize, how to tweak, or how to go back and start over again. Um, and you mentioned something else good with a lot of people just thinking they're getting crappy leads. And that's a really great topic because in my 5 or so years in the game of online businesses, working for other big companies, assessing businesses, working with thousands of clients now in our 3 companies, I still see this to this day when I get on with a majority of prospects. Hey, what do you think you need right now in your business? Well, I just need more leads, right? And they all say that right off the bat. And I always bring it back to guys, that's a symptom level problem. Might it be the real problem? It may, but in 90% of the cases, that's not the real problem. The real problem could be 10 other things. So when somebody says that to me, Ray, I just need more leads in your business. Okay, Fred, you might be right that you need more leads. Let's ask you, if I'm going to give you 10 leads right now that are exclusive, pre-vetted, and qualified and book them onto your sales team's calendars, how many do you close? And when the guy says one, now I need to show you, hey, maybe your sales process and your closing percentage actually needs to be fixed, right? What if we could get you converting at 20 to 25% close rates, and then we turn on the faucet and ramp in the leads? Which one's a better fit for you going forward? So now I've just kind of reframed him. So he's like, okay, I thought it was leads, but he's right. Like my conversions are low. I need to increase that first. And it would make more sense for my business to have my conversions at a double rate before I turn on the faucet and ran in more leads, right? So a lot of times their closing process, their sales process, there's a lot of broken aspects. Doesn't matter how many leads we shove through them. It's like having a cup with a bunch of holes and pouring water in. You want to close those holes first, or you just want to pour it in and see how much stays? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's one problem about what you said, and it's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault who's listening to this. Here's the problem. The problem is we're sitting here talking about a customer problem. They don't go to customer objection school. So you follow me? So because we're working to be professionals, we have to be professionals and we have to really go deep and really expect that they're going to give us a solid answer. But we also have to know our product and our craft well enough to be able to be professionals about it. Like I see people, and you've seen this, Ray, in the game, where people jump from offer to offer to offer to offer. Well, that's also going to go away as well because even though you're talking about bad leads, sometimes you can project that on the person who needs your help. So if you happen to be like in a lead generation game, as an example, because sometimes when I used to handle those calls and people say I need leads, I'm like, okay, great. Do you want uh, good leads or do you want bad leads? And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, you're saying leads, it's a very broad term. This is the reasons why we literally have to get very specific because if you treat that one person wrong these days, there's too many ways to fry you online with customer reviews, or sometimes they get really angry and they'll report you to the alphabet people. And we really have to put this stuff in the back of our mind. The whole game has changed. Like you just better be the right person talking to the right person. And if you're off, you got to let them know, hey, I don't think we have a match. I have no problems in saying that because part of our training was originally finding some of the motivators of what inspired somebody to get there. And if they're not tracking, if they're not hitting, this is all in the PDOCS training and DM Setter Academy, as far as like listening to certain things, it's not going to resonate with this person. Get them off the call. They'll want to stay on the, and the crazy thing about it is they'll want to stay on the call because you're trying to get them off the call. And I'm like, no, like I legit can't help you. Like, maybe I could refer you, but I mean, but we really have to be mindful of that commission breath. And sometimes we project that into the calls. And that was one of the things that I had said yesterday as an example. That's why I'm bringing that back up. So we have to definitely be mindful and sharpen our tools to make sure that no matter whether you're a media buying company watching this, or you happen to be a salesperson, or you happen to be a founder or CEO, the reality of it is that message needs to permeate throughout everything you're doing, all the way up to and including the onboarding and the user experience. Without any of that stuff, none of what you say matters. It's going to be a hole in the bucket, like Ray talked about earlier, and those holes can turn into holes in your ship, and that's what's going to cause that ship to sink.
Yep, 100%. No, well said. I think let me mute for a second. I'll let me get my dog out. I think you had a few slides. So can you bring those up real quick while I mute and get my dog
Yeah, do you have
together
me
then?
permission to share real quick?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what me and Ray were talking about earlier, and I'm going to go into it. I only have 9 slides, but I've observed and what I've seen over the last 5 to 6 years as to what's really causing this market to shift. And back in 2020, I had another group called New Room Collective, and we talked about a lot of this stuff back then. We had over 2,200 of the world's top thought leaders, experts, advertisers, marketers, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, you name it, everybody in there who was trying to help people was in that group at that point in time. And I told them all the same thing that I'm saying 4 years later, which is all of this boils down into communication, but also the power of our words. So what I wanted to go over today was a concept called concepts into conversions, because what's happened is what me and Ray had discovered was that we have so much intellectual property over the last several years since we've been in this game. That's how me and Ray met. We met at a high level company at one point in time, and we were working together. But since that time, me and Ray never put stuff out into the marketplace that we know that doesn't work, right? So we have a whole bunch of intellectual property, and one of the concepts that I had back at that time was one called Thought Leader Academy. And I gave Ray the analogy of a Swiss Army knife. I said, usually people, when they get the idea of a Swiss Army knife, they know they can instantly think of the knife, the corkscrew, the toothpick, the tweezers, and all this other stuff. But they never really talk about that thing that's holding it together. That's where we're at right now. We need one solid thing that's going to hold all of our intellectual property together. Doesn't matter whether we're closing deals. There's so subtle nuances to closing deals, like when you're talking to a high level player versus a startup, or if you're talking to maybe a multi-complex sale close where you have to talk to somebody 3 or 4 times before they close versus a one call close. All of these are different delineations, and me and Ray have pretty much created a lot of IP just from us really helping these markets out. So we decided to just look at everything and just put it into one practice called Thought Leader Academy just for that reason. All the intellectual property stands alone. It's kind of like Wu-Tang Clan, Wu-Tang's got they're together they're a legend and individually they're legends too. That's how I really look at Thought Leader Academy. We have vetted experts who are talking about things. So what we wanted to let you know is that we're real people. I mean, we understand the frustrations and anxieties of the business. Me and Ray have taken a lot of calls. I would venture to say definitely more than 10,000 apiece. There was one time when I had to be deep in the trenches and they thought they killed me. I was taking like 15 calls a day. Ray's laughing because he remembers those times, man. But this is real world experience from us turning the wrenches in the trenches together, from creating an advertising technology company from scratch to identity resolution companies to people who don't have two nickels to rub together. Like I have one $7 course and several people took it and they literally were making multiple 4-figure incomes. I mean, and again, you got to be careful with these disclaimers these days. But we rather have one place to show you versus just to sound like another marketer in the marketplace. I've never been that anyway, for the record. I've been more of a facilitator my whole life. I like to train people, I like to develop people, I like to educate people. I'm a firm believer in literacy. So now we need that in the marketplace more than ever. So that's the other reasons why we came together and also did Thought Leader Academy. And to Ray's point, we're attracting other high level players and other high level audiences as high level as extended reality. And if you guys don't know what extended reality is, you need to Google it because that's where things are going right now. I'm already letting you know. That's such a big lane. But the problem is, I really want to go back to this slide. I don't want to miss anything here. But creative literally is the now number one lever for your success. You have to really be more on the creative side. And that's the other reasons why I said earlier, unfortunately, we attract a very left brain audience. And I say unfortunately because you have to understand that you need both sides of your brain these days in order to function. And you'll see it all the time. Like if you're a multiple 8-figure company, or if you're doing paid social, you have this experience where you got your media buyers not talking to your creative team, or you've got your media buyers, you want them to do copy and you want them to do creative. They're not there. Like some of these guys will struggle, even in some of the offers that we've had, and we've had some very high level people with teams, and they still struggle with this. So we've taken a viewpoint and position of Thought Leader Academy, bringing all of those problems together. It doesn't matter whether you're on the end user side, whether you're starting in the industry, or you're already advanced. It's all in how you approach specifically what you're doing with the words that you're using. I promise you. So our goal is to turn your creative vision into high performing campaigns, because we are performance marketers. Now, it doesn't mean that we work for free, because nobody works for free. So, we worked on high level projects, done for you stuff. tens of millions of dollars. Altogether, we've probably closed a few billion when you look at it, because I've been doing multiple $1 billion closes for a long time in the automotive industry on record. Go to my LinkedIn, you'll see testimonials. And as well as Ray and a few other partners doing at least 50 to 60 million in high ticket closes since inception. So this has been very vetted out all the way to other programs where we've taken the ad spend and just really have designed and engineered a path for strong creatives as well as startups to follow. Very simple, easy to understand. But from a high level, these are the four things that we do. The part that I always saw missing was that people don't stick with the vision long enough in order to be able to really quantify it. You got to take that high level artist in you and really put numbers to it. And most people don't do that, yet alone, even if they wanted to do it, they don't understand that there's a process right in the middle to get it there. That's what I specialize in. That's what I've been doing since 1996. It's one of those things I learned from a very high level in the military, and I've taken it with me to this day. Prior to that, I was doing door to door sales. So I've always been in this game in some form of direct response. So the second thing is, once you get that vision crystallized and you want to start really making it happen, as you can see, number 4 is PDOCS, because that's when we're really trying to manifest it together. We have a creative process where it's pains, desires, obstacles, common beliefs, and steroids. So we take that vision, take it to the vision design process. That's what it's called. And then that's why I said PDOCS is the foundation, because that's where the rubber meets the road, period. It doesn't matter whether you're a media buyer trying to scale out. It doesn't matter whether you're a startup trying to scale out. It doesn't matter whether you're an organic marketer trying to figure out your offer and you want to just do regular, posts and stuff like that. That's cool. The words are the words. The question is, where are you at in the story? Are you just coming into the gym with the silver weights? Or are you now so good at your Olympic level where you're bench pressing 405 pounds as a warm up? Doesn't matter. We want to get those words organized in a certain way to where you convert, period, end of story. So, and again, here's some data behind all of that stuff from Vendasta and Tech Report. 70% of campaigns fail just because they don't have their intended goals clearly mapped out, like I just talked about. 60% have low ad engagement up to the point in time where there's $600 billion with a B of wasted ad spend just because of what I'm saying and people aren't doing in the marketplace. So it's true. You could have crappy leads and it's showing up as far as people trying to run paid traffic and just trying to run past this part that they've missed. They're trying to outpace the market by putting bad campaigns out there. Some people say good enough is good enough. Well, not today. If you still believe good enough is good enough, then you're behind this. You're behind, bro. You need to book a call with us for real. We'll fix it. And the other 50% comes from just misaligned strategies. The owner may have a vision that the media campaign, that the media buyers aren't doing. The media buyers may see the way that the market is going, but they're not reporting directly to the people who are in charge of actually helping them, do paid campaigns. Even for your organic, if you don't know how to look properly at the organic, like me and Ray talk about in PDOCS with Eco and the How-To Hero and a few other things that we teach about, these are the things that you have to connect dots on, but you have to be very specific out the gate to see which part of that Swiss Army knife tool you need at this time. That's the reasons why it's all wrapped up into Thought Leader Academy, because we're so good at this. Me and Ray were just like, man, where do we even start? It's like, dude, we can go end to end on this, all day long. So what we want to be able to do though is get the proper assessment to get you the proper tool at that time. So hopefully that's making sense, and I'm nearly done here. Ray, it doesn't take that long for this whole thing, but the bottom line is just that the first part of this is really getting the mission down. So that's the reasons why we're talking directly to the person who's swiping that card. I look, me and Ray have been on enough calls. The one thing that I hate's a strong word with me. Do not have your technical people coming on this call first. It is a total waste of time. You don't put them in a position to where they can invest right now. We have enough free material for that. And if you still have questions, just let us know. We'll do something free for you. But this is not that call anymore. We're past that point. We need to talk to real decision makers who are on there. Even if you need your other teams on there, that's fine for the first call. But it needs to be a very synergistic effort out the gate. So if you guys do need to talk, you go back to where you came from, and then we'll just book a call. We'll give you some homework, and then just come back on the call, and we'll go further from there. But that's the whole reasons why we need efficiencies at this point in time, because even in one of our other offers, it got so busy that we had to shift, and we had to have, I don't know if Ray, you remember this, we had like 5 filters just to get to the decision makers. We had We had like we had
Yeah.
one filter on the other filter, then the pre-filter, and then people feel, and even with the bots and AI, like we had. I'm telling you, it can get real intense. We don't need all that stuff here. I'm letting you know up front, this stuff is powerful. All we want to do is just talk to the decision makers up front, because if you don't have enough time to really guide your business, we don't need to talk to you. It's always going to fail. There's so many done for you offers that me and Ray and a few other team members have done, and the reasons why they fail is because you're not listening. You have to listen. If you're going to swipe that card, this is not gambling at this point in time. It has to be very specific. You have to be very surgical and precise with this. This is the reasons why I'm a creative strategist in the first place. It's my job to make sure we're putting the glue behind this. And then the second part is what we're talking about on Ray's end, which is really taking the vision and being able to crystallize it into a way via your offer, where sometimes you may already have a banging offer, but so you're just worried about the conversions. Or maybe your market is going in a different direction, and we need to help you figure out where it was last doing well, and then just reverse engineer it for you so that you can get back on track. Because media buyers love to buy, and people who are organic eventually want to do paid traffic. Let's be real about it. But sometimes we use excuses as to the reasons why something isn't working. We go, oh, well, I don't ever want to run paid traffic. Well, you just want to stay broke, because everybody who I know in the game is running paid traffic, and I'll be like, yo, bro, you miss, like this is how me and Ray's timeline is, which is totally insane. I saw somebody running an ad the other day, and they literally had one word that was wrong, and I just hit him on his personal, was like, yo, bro, and he changed it. You follow me? Like, that's the level of play that we're at. There's different levels to this game, but we want to be able to bring that top level information to Main Street, because you need a shot as well to be able to do your stuff. So we do provide that kind of support. That's why we have 3 or 4 groups. we're in 3 to 4 groups just for that reason, because it's so nuanced as to what we do. It's no different than one person having a LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, right? They're the same person. They're just thinking differently. We're on those platforms. That's how our groups are set up as well. It's very nuanced. So we want to be a strategic ally. We just don't want people that we're working with who just want to gamble and hope that things are going to go well. We're going to ask you questions. We're going to have briefings. We're going to need to be able to talk to you in a way. And when you bring your teams, we already have stuff that they can look at and then have Q&A. That's how we have this set up. It's been engineered this way for efficiencies. We're all about efficiency. Me and Ray will tell you, we eat our own cooking. That's what we're about. So, and that just leads us to a couple more slides, just 2 more, and I'll be more than happy to drop this down as well, Ray. But basically, these are the 4 steps that we do from a very high level, from deep diving into the intricacies of your offer, always just wanting to transcend the typical brainstorming sessions, because again, me and Ray have played at a very high level. We also want to eliminate confusion in your offers, because some of y'all say the exact same things 4, 5, or 6 times, and your audience gets confused. And we also want to bring to you via PDOCS a structured communication process. So everything that you're talking about is clearly delineated. If you listen to what I'm saying right now, this is very precise, because we've had to be very precise in some very tough offers that were borderline military grade, where I'm gonna give you one example. One client we had, it was so military grade, we had to call high level themselves just for them to fix the code, because our client was kept breaking high level. We've also had offers where we've broken Google Sheets. So we've had to shift. Like, we've done some big level stuff, but we got one guy on squad. He literally broke ClickUp. He told us that the other day. I don't know if you remember that, Ray. He
I know
literally
who you're
had to,
talking about.
yeah, he literally had to, ClickUp had to give him more, and they're like, how are you doing this? So we have some very powerful horsepower behind this. And last but not least, this is from a high level, the vision design process. All of this stuff, for the most part, is in our creator's book. It's designed that way just so you can get full conceptual understanding, because that's giving you the high level. And then we break it down to the real world wrench turning stuff via PDOCS, via From Vision to Victory, via DM Setter Academy, via all the offers that we have. I promise you, there's probably something that you're asking for that we probably have. It's just right there. But the ultimate 2 end goals, and then after that I'm done, is we want to have, because this vision design process is actually 4 parts. I just want to go into 2 today, just for the sake of time. So the first part is strategic clarity. That's what we've been talking about this whole time on this particular call. What we want to be able to do is to really make your vision so crystal clear that when you look in the mirror, you can see it, and literally have it on paper, literally have it in writing, literally have it structured in 3 phases and 9 steps, so that you're able to really go through it with a fine tooth comb. And we have special software for this, just so that you at some point in time can go, yep, that's what I want right there. And make no mistake about it, the tools are out there. I can tell you exactly who we're using, but the tools don't matter if you don't have the wherewithal to know how to use them. This is what we show you how to do with our particular process, and that process is called the vision design process. And then once you get this so crystal clear, your emails start banging, your ads start banging, your organic marketing starts banging. That's what we call brand resonance, because we're delving deep into your ideal audience's core desires, their fears, and their motivations, period, end of story. The only way we can do that is to measure twice, cut once, take you through the specific intellectual property that we've designed and engineered, and then the outcome of that is for you to have higher conversions and to have more relevant conversions and people who want to stay with you longer because they really see that you're the expert. That's how important all of this whole process is, because without this these days, guys, you're done. You might as well just go ahead and I'm very serious when I say that. I was on more calls where people said, "Hey Fred, I got 60 days to fix this." I'm just like, you don't need more than 60 days. You know, I hate to tell you that, but it's just like some people we can fix real fast. Some people need more time. That's the reasons why it's important to book a call. And like I said, we'll be real. We're real dudes. That's how we started this, and that's how we begin it. And that's my Fred talk, brother. I appreciate you.
That's how we're gonna keep rolling with it too, 100%. You know, he said something good there. This is what we do with all of our clients, and just something that stood out that most would have probably not noticed. He said we help set this up within your vision. So yeah, we can tell you what to do and how to run your business, but it doesn't do any good if we're not doing it within what you want and what your vision is. So that's kind of the foundational aspect for us to help you build it within your vision and what you want to achieve in terms of results, outcomes, in all kinds of ways, right? How much time do you want to be putting to the business? How much money do you want to be making? Do you want to be really hands-on? Do you want to start delegating right off the bat? Like, where do you see this going? We'll give you recommendations and suggestions on why or why not you might not want to do that, and then help you execute it and build it out. And he mentioned something good about the offer, super important, and that's kind of one of my areas of expertise. Most of you guys know I've crafted over 300 high-ticket offers that have sold in the marketplace, and a big aspect of that is twofold. One, very clear with the messaging and how to describe it. I can't tell you still to this day how many people will be like, "Hey, what do you do?" "I have a 12-week coaching program with access to a portal and 16 lessons." And that doesn't tell me what you do. Like, that didn't tell me anything. It told me the deliverables and how many calls I'll get on. That didn't tell me that you're going to get me, 300 leads or you're going to grow my bit. Like, that's not specific at all. There's 4 P's that people struggle with that goes into that go into your offer that people struggle with very much. If not all 4 of these, at least one. Number one, people are saying, how do I price my offer? How do I come up with a price? I have a pretty good formula for that. I've done it pretty spot on. I can usually tell what a solution will warrant in terms of a compensation in the marketplace. But how's it priced? How's it packaged? How's it positioned? And how's it perceived by your market in terms of value? So there's a price and there's a perceived value, and people don't always delineate and realize those are 2 different things, but they are. So understanding those 4 aspects, and if you're struggling with any of those, let us know. Let me know. I have all kinds of resources, especially relevant to offer. This is what Fred was just saying. If you need something, we probably already have it. That's a perfect example. I just start talking about something and we have it, right? So if anybody needs any of that. And the last thing I'm going to touch on before I kick it back to you and we kind of wrap it up is, I don't necessarily want to have the rich versus poor argument, but I will say the people that are financially, dependent. I'm not going to go as far as rich or wealth. Those terms, there's too many ways to view them, and people have a different perception of that. But financially independent versus people that struggle paycheck to paycheck or just aren't making it. And the biggest difference with those, the people that are financially independent, rich, wealthy, they're not better than you. They're not smarter than you. They just know more than you. They have the right connections and the right knowledge to be able to leverage tools, other people. A lot of wealthy people, and a lot of where I get revenue coming in is not from things I'm doing, from things I've set up and I've delegated. Now other people are doing them and they're driving revenue into my business. So we want people to have the knowledge so they can become financially dependent for themselves, their families, and then teach it to other people around them eventually, which is where the leadership aspect comes in. First, you learn it, you execute, you get good on it, and then you will feel confident to be able to teach it and lead others. And it all trickles down. But I don't know how much more simple I can put it, but knowledge and just knowing what the rich or the financially independent know will help you get there, as opposed to sitting around twiddling your thumbs, not leveling up your knowledge. And the last aspect of that is the tricky part, maybe, is where do I get my knowledge? So many areas, what's right, what's wrong, and that is on you individually. You have to find what, you have to do some critical thinking. There's going to be BS in any market. There's going to be great people. So you need to find what you relate to. That's why when we go back to our messaging, I only want to relate to a certain demographic. I don't want to help everybody. I can't, number one. And number two, there's certain demographics and certain you know, interests or personality traits that I don't want to work with. And I'm very clear about that. And my messaging will push those people away before they ever get to a booked call. So yeah, I'm just kind of rehashing on what you said and elaborating. Anything you want to piggyback on or add on there before we wrap it up today?
Yeah, I definitely want to appreciate that, brother. And unfortunately, marketers have messed this phrase up, but I really want to say it. It's not your fault. And on behalf of the entire industry, I want to apologize. I didn't do it. But if somebody really doesn't start owning parts of what's happened out here, then we sound like everybody else. All I can tell you is that you can literally go down my timeline. You can go through my LinkedIn. You can go through anything. You can go through my offers. You can go through my free stuff, and you'll see I am who you're talking to. It needs to your communication needs to be that clear, so that no matter what asset you generate, it's going to permeate who you are, your core essence. That's what brand resonance really is. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And what you'll quickly discover is that if you have a competitive mindset, you're going to lose, and here's why. You do need both. But I've been in too many high level rooms, especially in the automotive industry, where it's all about collaboration. They have a healthy competition because you'll have one part of the brand competing against the other part of the brand, or one part of the car company competing against the other car. Like that's healthy competition.
Right.
In this particular lane, that doesn't really exist. Some of my best connections and some of the best ways that I've worked with people, and the end result happens to be money, came from really seeing them as a human being first and being able to really connect with them and having that one conversation that will shift your life. We had one meeting today that was the exact same thing because that creator's book is extremely powerful. I've had more people tell me, "You're talking directly to me." And I'm like, "Yes, I am." Because that's where communication always has been. It's always been at the power of one, and as long as you understand that, then anything that you're saying needs to be curated to that one conversation. And what you'll quickly discover is that a lot of people have that one problem. So if you get nothing else out of this today, that's probably the best piece of high level free advice that I can give you. Because when I charge you $20,000, I'm going to say the exact same thing. It's just going to hit differently because now you're financially invested in it. But let's just pretend what me and Ray just gave you was $100,000 mastermind for free, because this information is going to hit completely different. And that's all I really want to say, brother, because again, the PDOCS technology is amazing. Some of the other people on the squad who've gone on to do other bigger things, we've talked about it. And this moment is here. I said this years ago. I said, how cool would it be for people to actually personify PDOCS in real life? Like Web 2.0 versus 3.0, right? It's here. This is what people want. So now it's time to go out there. And again, that's just a catalyst like an operating system. We do have the overall umbrella of Thought Leader Academy, but all this IP stands on its own because it's been battle tested on its own. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great, great. So, as Fred alluded to a couple of times, and for anyone that doesn't know his creator's book, I'm going to link that below in the description here on YouTube. So go down and check the description, download that free copy, and read through it, and then get back to us. I expect a majority of you will be mind blown by that. And just to reiterate what we kind of kicked up off the top, we have the PDOCS powered by From Vision to Victory, Master Your Messaging Challenge coming up here on August 12th. I'll put the link down in the description for that as well. And then last thing I'm just going to wrap it up with is something just kind of funny, that I brought up the other day. And to go back to what we were talking about, with getting your messaging right, or Fred, you mentioned, a messenger or, outreach earlier with that 15 appointments or you don't pay or whatever, right? So one thing I made a joke about, I think it was in a thread with one of our teams the other day, was who you going to call? Guru busters, right? Like we're out there actually trying to call out these people in the market. I do it pretty regularly because I'm active organic. And there was an example earlier this week where I was doing it with this guy, and he was talking about all the shiny object and majority and authority messaging that is trying to get that low sophistication level prospect to chase a shiny object to a sale, but he's not being transparent or real. It was funny because it was on their post where I was dropping some advice, and I'm like, whatever the question was, I was like, hey man, I see this quite often. This is what I would look out for, and I give like 6 pieces of advice. I was like, hope that helps. Then this guy chimes in right underneath me with, what Ray just said makes no sense. I've made $3.4 million. He just starts talking all about himself and numbers. And I went back and forth with the guy a little. Like, it's kind of funny how my first, line was like, "Here's some free tips. Let me know if that helps." And you start off with, "I've made $3.4 million." Like, they're night and day. Not to say either one of us are wrong, but one certainly hits different in the market. One is just coming from a place of, "Hey man, I'm not attached to the outcome. Here's some advice that's worked well for me and my clients. Hope it helps you." I don't care if I ever hear from the guy again. This guy's
See,
coming through with a bit of a pitch. You know what I mean?
Ray's such a nice guy. I'm going to say not only is it wrong, it's unethical because what they're not telling you, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to shut up, but this is the way the game really works, guys. Some of these guys are already in industries and verticals, and it may work for that industry and vertical. So what they do is they don't tell you what the industry and vertical is. They strip it out and they say, "Hey, here's the framework," but they don't necessarily tell you exactly how they got to that or yet on even if it works. So what they're essentially doing is they're selling you the shovel, not the gold. Anybody can get a shovel these days. Anybody can read a ClickFunnels book, and you'll see that's how this industry was built. Then you'll see some certain juggernauts and gurus in the industry who broke or went elsewhere because their intellectual property didn't hold up because this market's always shifting and evolving. When you're talking about audience sophistication, you're talking about manipulation. And in certain levels, you have to have a different kind of conversation where you're really talking to people for real because that kind of stuff can get in the way from you actually having a real conversation to close multi-million-dollar deals, or I've closed several billion-dollar deals, one call close on record. So, my point is there's a time and place for everything depending upon your audience. But the audience that if you just talk to people how you want to be talked to, you're going to get that back. That would probably be the easiest way to sum that up.
Yeah, yeah. And just to take that one step further before we wrap up, in this case, and Fred's spot on. In this case, what the guy wasn't pointing out was the 90% of people that aren't successful or aren't making money in his niche. And I already knew that. He's only talking about the winners and the people that exceed. So I was like, and that's when I comment back, I'm like, "Hey man, I actually said kudos. It's great that you've made 3.4 million. But on the other end of the spectrum, I guarantee you mentioned all the people that have tried this particular vertical that haven't succeeded, right?" And eventually I got him to spit out, "Well, if you want to be a top 10% that actually succeed, you have to have this mindset and this and that." I'm like, "Oh, so you finally admit only 10% succeed." Funny how that works. So now you're talking about that, right? You wouldn't say that in the beginning. And I guarantee if that prospect saw that only 10% succeed, he would already dropped off. That's why you wouldn't tell the truth, right? I'm happy to tell the truth when it comes to that stuff. And that's fine. Give the person the information. Hey, 10% can succeed, 90% don't. You still want to take the gamble? If they do, at least they know.
Yeah, 100%, brother. And I really do appreciate you really aligning forces because me and you saw this coming back a while back. Actually, when we first met, we were talking about
We did talk about this a long time, 5 years.
That's the craziest thing about it because when you got two real dudes coming together, and the craziest thing about it is like the people who we know are just so prolific, but they're not the only ones who know this kind of stuff. You know this as well. You just have to get your awareness raised enough because if you have it in your heart and soul to really help people, it doesn't matter whether you're already making a few $100,000 a month or you're making a few $100,000 a year. It's the same thing. In order for you to really get to the next level, you have to be a leader. You have to be able to position yourself above what you're doing so that you can become the farmer. And that's really how you expand. But you can also expand garbage because you don't have the right seeds in place. Like you're sowing strange seeds. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know what you don't want. And then you're throwing spaghetti up against the wall. Well, how much money do you have before that goes bust? I don't know. Even at the high levels that I've played at, I don't know nobody who's got that kind of bankroll.
I agree. I agree. All right, great stuff. We went a little over as we usually do because we get into so much stuff. We just keep going and dropping information and knowledge. But we both have busy schedules and a lot of other stuff to get to today. So in closing, guys, thanks for watching. Check the description below. You'll see the link to Fred's book. We're totally free. We'll put a link if you want to speak with he or I. We'll drop a link to our challenge. I mean, literally under $100. And give us 5 days, and we're going to revolutionize your messaging. So it's driving in more revenue than you can even fathom. Well over $100. I mean, that's a joke for what we're going to be delivering.
Yep.
And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Oh, go ahead, Fred.
Yep, 100%. We're not that busy. We're available. We've engineered our time to where we have teams. We are approachable. Come talk to us. Join our groups. I have to be that direct because when I get the DM and people go, "Oh, I thought you were busy," bro, come on in. We have systems that
busy and still handle people too.
100%, bro. I think we need to let people know that because it's just like dude, like no, come through. We got you. Come through. Me and Ray got you. Either
you're
me,
right, Fred.
Ray,
I do hear that too, though. People, hey, I thought you're probably too busy. No, I'm not too busy.
Either
busy,
me,
not too busy.
100% either me, Ray, or somebody on the team. So I know we went a little bit over, but I had to say that
Oh yeah,
because, yeah, seriously.
I'm with you. All right. Thank you for coming on, Fred. I will get with you here soon. I got to run to my next one. Thanks everybody for watching, and look down in the description here on YouTube.